As we enter a new school year, it's important to know and be aware of some of the more common learning disabilities your child may develop. Here to help point out some of the signs and treatment options is psychologist and mom herself, Amy Trapp. Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I think this is great. We're talking about this kind of right at the start of the new school year because, you know, kids every year they're learning something new. They change how they learn.
Yeah.
But these are some important things to at least be aware of and maybe look out for signs.
Yeah, it's really important if you think that something might be going on with your kiddo that isn't quite up to par with normal performance that you're seeing in the classroom. You know, early intervention is the key with learning disabilities. So if your child is off track in an area and you're able to provide some supportive measures, you have to first know what's going on, right, with anything. You have to know where you're at. Once you figure out where you're at, then you can make a plan of how to kind of conquer.
And you were saying some of these you can actually completely fix, have a, completely changed, cycle. Others may need some work.
Absolutely.
But again, finding out early is the best so it doesn't, trickle into other issues that they may have in the school. All right, so number one, dyslexia. Some of these I can't even pronounce, by the way, so I can't do that one, dyslexia.
Right.
Very common. People have heard of this, I think, a lot.
Yeah, I think most of us have, problems with words, problems with language and manipulation of words and writing and sometimes reading and spelling, those kinds of things.
Is it just letters within the words, or are they flopping words, or is there different degrees of it?
Yeah, there can be all kinds of manifestations, but it's basically a word issue.
Okay. So how soon can kids kind of, you realize this may be going on? Are we talking elementary school? Are we talking younger?
Yeah, I think most folks would say around age 3 you can see some signs of learning disabilities.
Okay.
But I don't think parents necessarily think of a problem until they're in school, because then they have some comparative data and some teacher input, right? So you may, and some kids just develop a little more slowly with reading or with math. That's normal as well. So you kind of have to put it all into the pot and assess really carefully what might be going on for your particular kiddo.
So what are the most common ways, if you do have dyslexia, to treat it or to work with your student?
Well, with any learning disability, the first thing to do is really rule out that there's not something else going on. So like look at vision and hearing issues, look at any other medical conditions that could be happening, and then really develop a comprehensive plan based on what that kid is presenting with. So it could be that kid is presenting with a couple of different types of learning disorders going on at the same time. You want to make a hierarchy and develop skills, plan to develop those skills within the school system or apart from the school system or both, that can help really support and enhance what needs to grow.
All right, so that is a very common one. Another one is with math and kind of calculations. Talk about this one, because this one I haven't heard of as much.
So dyscalculia is the actual phrase for it. And it can be like some, a kiddo that might have a difficulty just with simple addition problems or simple arithmetic, or it could even be someone that just has a problem with sequencing or understanding like the order of events or the order of operations of things, not necessarily numbers. So it's kind of labeled as the math disorder, but it can show up in other ways too.
Well, you were saying just if your kids can't keep up with certain tasks at home or something,
or even like follow a sense of timing or the clock. At a certain age, we expect our kids to be able to sort of get 5 minutes or 10 minutes and kind of sequence themselves towards bedtime or towards routine. If they really just seem like they can't. They can't sequence, they can't understand the steps or the procedural tasks.
Is that something that can really be worked with and maybe changed?
Absolutely, depending on the age and what else is presenting with the kiddo. Absolutely.
Okay.
Those are, there's some skills that you can teach around the specific presentations of the kiddos. You can, use mentors or tutors, depending on like whether it's academic or at home, mostly presenting. But and if there are physical things, like in some of the other nonverbal learning disorders.
Yeah, so that's this last one we were going to talk about, nonverbal learning disabilities.
Yeah, so like with kiddos that might have a hard time with coordination or with understanding like body language or movement, they might be super clumsy kiddos. Some of us have those kiddos too that don't quite fall into the learning disorder category. But like, for example, if a kiddo is resisting homework because it's hard for them to write, hard for them to hold and grip a pencil, we might not know that that's the issue.
Yeah.
So some occupational therapy can help them learn to get better gripping or gripping technique or use grip prompts.
And you can see where if you don't find that out early, if that's frustrating for them as they continue to go on, through school, that it may lead to some other things.
Yeah.
So as we close here, what's the take home? What do you, as parents are watching this morning?
We really want to get these things early. Early.
Who do you talk to? If you do have that intuition that something is going on.
Well, always collaborate with other people people who are adults in your kiddo's life, right? So if they're in a classroom, talk to the teachers. Have you noticed anything? Here's what I'm seeing. The teachers can then at least be aware if they haven't noticed anything, and they can track with you. Also, you can talk to your pediatrician at the checkups. They're going to talk about developmental milestones, and that's something that's important to look at as well. Sometimes kiddos miss developmental milestones, but they're completely normal and on track in development in other areas. So the pediatrician is listening for things that could be some kind of a disorder in development.
And I love, I know. And I love what, as we close here, you were saying, just because, you know, a student or a child has a learning disability, or maybe they learn differently, they're often very intelligent in other ways.
Oh, yeah.
So
Gifted kids.
I think that's very, you know, encouraging for families that, yeah, they may be struggling in one area, but... Yeah.
Well, gifted kids really present often with learning disabilities. So, you know, they have this brain that sort of is like hypercharged and working like overdraft over here, overtime over here, and then parts that are just deficits in ability or task, you know, task orientation. But eventually, you know, you'll probably need to get into a psychologist and get an assessment if you really do suspect that that's going on.
All right. Well, again, we wish all the kiddos and the families out there successful school years. And again, catch it early. That's the take home this morning. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask your teacher questions and your pediatrician. Amy, thank you so much. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you.